the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 versus the Nike Pegasus Turbo Plus. Which one of these is your better daily trainer? Let's compare and contrast. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for the shoes somewhere here where you can see them. And we'll just kind of kick off right away into, I guess, our older of the two shoes, which is the Deviate Nitro 3. Surprisingly, a little bit older, even though the shoe came out like probably less than a year ago and whatnot. So again, just some general specs to consider. 10mm offset all the way across the shoe. We got a 39 in the heel, 29 in the forefoot, giving you that high stack, high heel effect in the shoe. So obviously more for your daily training use. You don't necessarily want to race in this particular thing, but you could. It's just there's better alternatives if you have the means and resources to do so, right? The main things we need to really address with the shoe is not so much like the upper and like the tongue and shoelaces and all of that. I would want to talk about our heel cup, which is just a factor of the shoe that gives it its own edge against the Pegasus Turbo, keeping you that heel stability with some extra moving parts. And we have two different types of foam across the shoe, sandwiching a carbon plate. Those are your main differences between both shoes that are worth considering. So it really does kind of boil down to your question here of, you know, we have our just regular nitro foam, which is your more reactive, dense foam to protect your feet in the long run. And then we have the Nitro Elite foam running the top end of the shoe to give you that soft, kind of squishy impact that has a higher rebound effect that works in tandem with the power plate, carbon plate in the shoe. That kind of is the momentum factor that's involved with this particular daily trainer, right? So that's the one piece to consider here, followed with, of course, the Pegasus Turbo, which has a 35mm heel, 25mm forefoot, giving it that 10mm offset, which is similar to what was in the Pegasus Turbo of 2018, 2019, that particular generation of shoe. But the main difference in this particular shoe, comparatively speaking to the Pegasus, or not the Pegasus, the Deviate Nitro, is we don't really have like a heel guard of that sort, even though we do have a reinforced heel, pretty stiff from just my feelings with it. And we don't have the carbon plate, and we have ZoomX running the entire duration of the shoe. Now, ZoomX is like Nike's, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word. That's their like headliner race day type of foam that's used with the shoe that's supposed to be extremely squishy, high rebound, high impact, but has sort of a half-life span that typically degrades quickly unless it's like a race day shoe. Then you kind of expect that to last about 200, 250 miles maximum, or it's working in tandem with its React foam to do some sort of combination. But in the Pegasus Turbo Plus, Nike has opted in for two things, right? They've opted in for the retro feel of the original Pegasus Turbo with this like pink stripe that runs the duration of the shoe with this kind of gray outsole, this gray upper with the Flyknit finish that isn't really what it was back in the day, doesn't matter. But they also opted in for just that one foam kind of style shoe here with, I guess I would say like this ZoomX compound might not be the exact same that we would see in like a Vaporfly or Alpha Fly. It's hard to say exactly, but what we do know is that it's just running the duration of the shoe, and it is what it is as a result, right? Both shoes, of course, have their various outsole patterns associated with them, as you can see. Main features for both that I find kind of common is that they have no rubber on the midsole sections of the shoes, or just like this middle area, and all of the rubber seems to be focused on your forefoot and toe box kind of area and your heel areas respectively. I'm guessing this is a weight-saving piece of considerations for both shoes. In terms of the foams that are represented, again, you can see how in the Pegasus Turbo, the ZoomX is taking a little bit more of a beating after, I think this is 20, maybe 30 miles in this particular shoe, where we have some chipping here on the side. And this shoe that I've had for over 260 miles barely looks like it's even had a scratch on this Nitro foam that's protecting the Nitro Elite section of the foam in the shoe, right? And that's all things considered that this is a 10mm offset shoe, so the focus is more in that toe box forefoot kind of area whenever you strike because of the high heel effect it provides. So, other things to consider. I think this is the most, I'm going to use the word damning in this context, but the most damning feature of these shoes is that of the weights provided, I'm surprised how close they are in weight with all the moving parts associated with the Deviate Nitro. What do I mean by that? I think this shoe weighs in at about 9.2, 9.3 ounces in my size, and it has a carbon plate. It has 2 different stacks of foam. It has this slightly thick upper mesh material. It's got this heel cup. Like, everything that's associated with this shoe, I would think it would weigh a lot more than the Pegasus Turbo Plus, which weighs like 9.0, 9.1 ounces in my size. So that 0.2 ounces that's rolled over in the Deviate Nitro, it can't just be the power plate that's associated with the shoe that's adding 0.2 ounces. That's got to be like way more to consider. So if I had to speculate without being some kind of shoe design or shoe engineer, I would say the Deviate Nitro definitely has put more bang into the buck for the shoe in terms of compressing all of the parts into this weight than maybe the Pegasus Turbo. And now the argument against that could be, hey, I want a daily trainer that doesn't have a carbon plate. I want a daily trainer that isn't stiff because it has a carbon plate and isn't stiff because it has a more reactive protective foam in the shoe versus something that has no carbon plate and it just has the soft snappy foam all the way across the shoe, in which case that would be your argument for the Pegasus Turbo Plus, right? Now, in terms of brands, now I had somebody say this in one of my comments on a YouTube video, and it's a really good point to address here. With Puma, you kind of know what to expect in their daily trainer product. In their race day product, you also kind of know what to expect in terms that it might not be the greatest race day product, but the daily training product is like smack dab spectacular. I'm 2 for 2 on daily trainers from this brand that I really love. This is the second one I like. It's my second favorite compared to the Deviate Nitro 2, which was the predecessor to this one, right? Whereas in the Nike brand, the Nike field nowadays, this wasn't pre-2019, I suppose, but nowadays, just quoting one of my commenters on my YouTube videos, it really is a gamble in terms of what you get when you buy a Nike shoe, right? It's a box of chocolate. You just don't know what you're gonna get, okay? You can have glue, you can have some residue, you can have things missing off the shoe, you can have like textile or mesh ripped up in certain places, and it's really, I don't know if it's a resell kind of thing, if it's a production line error or some kind of thing like that. Luckily, I was fortunate to get the shoe in a pretty good state, minus the damage that I had on my second tie of the shoe, where, again, I've discussed this in my first impressions. I ended up tearing the eyelid of the shoe while pulling the shoelace, so I rethreaded the shoelace so it would obviously go underneath and pull and be able to be tied on the tongue. But that is a serious concern that this thing popped after like my second tie of the shoe, right? Like that's never happened. I always thought to myself like, can this happen on any of my daily trainers? In the Deviate Nitro, never happened, right? I've had other shoes which like had a much thinner eyelid to tie through, and just never happened. So this is a big red flag for me in this kind of case. So yeah, that's just something to consider with the Nike brand overall. So in terms of better daily trainers, where do you opt into? I guess I made the point there originally. It kind of really depends what you're looking for, right? Do you want something with the carbon plate that's a little bit faster, more versatility in your daily training runs, but as a result is a little bit stiffer and could, I don't know, be, I guess not as quick at times just because of the foam being used? Or do you want something that's quick, snappy, doesn't have a carbon plate, has a little bit more flex? You're not sure what you get out of the box necessarily until you try it and, kind of recycle it and whatnot. Then you would opt in for the Pegasus Turbo Plus. So those are the things to really consider. In terms of price points, they're like kind of close in price. I remember the Deviate Nitro 3 being like 160. This is 180, and this kind of counts for inflation too, that, I guess Nike's trying to make up for lost dollars that would have happened from their debacle of product between like 2022 and the end of 2023. So that's kind of my main consideration factors. I would say I like the Nike brand overall in terms of the overall product that they have. I don't really love their daily trainers. I've been kind of mixed about their race day shoes as of late. I like their clothing brand, but like this shoe is like not my first choice in terms of things I absolutely love, just because we have things like the Puma Deviate Nitro, which again, the brand itself is great. I'm still learning more about it, trying to figure out its clothing line and things like that. But the daily trading product is highly reliable, super friendly to use for like every possible runner out there. The carbon plate is very nice for that extra snap if you're looking for it in your run. If you don't mind the stiffness of the shoe, then it doesn't really bother you whatsoever. So that's kind of just been my thoughts with both shoes. So yeah, again, it comes down to what you're looking for. Do you want a carbon plate? Yes, this is the shoe. If you don't want it, it's this one. So I think we'll leave it at that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys agree or disagree with the assessments. But yeah, it's an interesting apples and oranges argument we kind of got here. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.